English India. Thank you for joining for like 3 times in a row. We are really looking forward to having many more such meetings. But I can see the core group building. I can see some people who have been joining like uh, uh, every time. So we're really looking forward to such a group release, which is going to be there for like longer period, and so that we can all talk to each other very regularly, and then based on everyone's feedback, we can accordingly change the format and everything. Okay, but right now we are just in the third meeting, and we are just seeing that how things are unfolding. Okay, so today we have two sessions. One from Sri, it's regarding the CPI second session. Probably he's going to show more of demo today. Last time we covered one demo and some theory part as well. Okay, and the other session today we have it's from Akash. Okay, so this is one topic, one session which was like requested as well, and we thought that people will be really interested. It was regarding the intro. It is regarding to introduction to OData. Okay, so as you all know, it's all being service based, so it's really important to know the OData concept and at least know the basics. Some people are working on it, so they really know it, but some people haven't got the opportunity, so they really don't know much about it. But I think this course is kind of gonna ramp up everyone on this topic. Before I hand over to Sri, I just have some feature, or you can say some news to share, or you can say my learnings or things happening around in the SAP world in the last month. I just noted those down. Okay. So one is Rise with SAP. There was a big event on I think 27th of January. Yeah, okay, where this announcement was made. It is more of offering bundle and all. Okay, really not that much into a technical space, but it's about how customers are going to get the S4 HANA and other services, and it's going to kind of redefine. And I have really heard the very good things about it. So if you don't know much about it, you really don't need to know much about it, but you need to at least know that what it is and and what it's doing. Okay, uh, just so that whenever you're talking to customer or maybe your peers, you should know this thing. You should not be blank there that you don't know right with SAP because it is not actually your area of work. Okay, so please just Google it, go to the community, you will get a lot of material what it is. And the other thing is, last month there was a bit of renaming that has happened. Okay, SAP Cloud Platform is now SAP Extension Suite and SAP Integration Suite. Okay, and there's a and more and many services have been renamed with the prefix BTP, Business Technology Platform. Okay, so lot of things happen there. So please just go through that as well. There are blogs about it, and renaming has happened at a lot of places. So if you are not really aware about it, please search and see. And when it comes to BTP, there is one open SAP course going on the enterprise architecture, how to fit BTP in an enterprise architecture. So if you are really aspiring for the architect role, okay, or if you have done the trainings like for TOGAF and all, you will really understand what they are talking. And but I think it's really good for everyone to know how enterprise architecture and BTP actually mix. Okay, so that's a good course going on. If you're interested, you can see that as well. And this is something, and the fourth thing that I want to share is something which I just heard last night. There was a podcast on Coffee Corner Studio, and Vijay Sharma and three other ladies joined. Two other ladies joined. I really don't know them personally, but I know Vijay personally. Vijay has been working on the IRPA in the IRPA space for some time. He has published many blogs, And I think this podcast was like really good. I mean, it's completely technical. We know that we understand that why this product is required, and they really talk about the customer use cases as well. Yeah, I think if you get time, please listen to this podcast. Follow Vijay Sharma on your in SAP community. Vijay is not here, but I'm going to request him for some session here on the IRPA, where probably he can discuss some use cases. So because I haven't worked much in IRP, I haven't gone in too much details there. But after listening to that podcast, I'm going to do it. Okay. And there's one OpenSV course also going on for the IRPA 2.0. I think it started on 9th of February. Okay, so I'm going to do it. If you have some time and you're really interested in this space, please do that OpenSV course. And for the next week session, we will have one session related to certifications and how to approach these certifications, what certification one should do, and if you have any question related to that. Okay, Mohit is here. There was a recently he wrote a blog about his certifications, his transformation from being only a web developer to SAP architect. I think that was really insightful. Okay, so Mohit is going to conduct that session. This request had come from one of our members on the SAP Stamptish, and since Mohit is there and ready to take this, so we're going to cover this in next month's meeting, and probably we will continue with the CPI third session as well. And last thing I would like to highlight is that we have been getting many requests for the sessions. Mohit has proposed 3 topics. I think these are really very interesting topics. I'm really looking forward to those sessions. Okay. So that's it's a request to you all as well. If you have something to share, if you have something which you think that people would be it would be helpful people to hear that it will be beneficial for the community. Please mail myself or Navneet, and then we can really look forward to including one of your sessions in upcoming meetings. Okay, and then now coming to the format of these sessions. Yeah, we are having sessions. I think this was the best way to start while we keep on building the tempo. But we are open to suggestions about the format. Like yesterday, we were discussing about having some panel discussion, inviting some experts, or having some code jam or other ideas to make things more interesting. Okay, because there's nothing official about it. It's all about we people. Okay, if you think that something which can make things more interesting, okay, please mail us. We are really interested to hear your thoughts. Okay, so I've already taken 12 minutes. Yeah, I didn't mean to take so much time. So see, it's over to you. Okay, yeah. So thank you very much, everyone. So if you have any queries, any doubts, feel free to mail myself or Naveed. Yeah, over to you, Sri.
Thanks, Gaurav. I think now the time is 12:12. Supposed to close the session by 12:42. Okay, so you can pause me if I'm going over time. Okay. Um, okay. Fine. I'll get started. Thanks for the introduction, and we'll get started. Actually, we had a discussion even last meet also, and there was something like we started with the introduction to integration suite and how to enable this, and there are some blogs I have shared across, and there's a open SAP course which you can follow. Hope everybody followed that. And first I'll get started with, like, if you have any questions, if if somebody has already tried, and if you are having any questions handy, you can raise it, or else we'll get started with today's content. Okay, I'll take no, nothing. Okay, cool. So so the basic part is I have already logged into cloud platform integration. This is just a continuation of the our last session. So I'll not go ahead, I'll not get started from the scratch. So you are very well aware of the screen, and this is the integration home screen, and these are the different parts of the integration service. So first one is a discover, where you will be able to see all the standard content, prepackaged content which are available. And the second part is the design part. So it has a set of the custom integration packages which you are going to create it. Okay. The third part is the operation view, where you can do the monitoring. And the fourth operation is the tenant settings, where you can mention the connectivity details for importing the content from the process orchestration, or you want to configure something on the transport mechanism like CTS plus. And the third one is, I think this is an add-on, super easy tools. I think it is by Fatih French. So it will actually ease out some of the operations. I'll show that also. So for the today session, I'll go with this content package, and you can click on this design, and there are different packages already created. So I'll get into this SCN demo, and I have already opened this iFlow that I'll show. Once you get into SCN demo, this is the package where you can bundle all your iFlows. And you can mention all these details like overview. If you want to mention what is the description, for example, you are having an STS high to retire scenario, or STS source to settle scenario, or something like that, you can mention, and you can give the package ID and the artifacts and the details pertain to that. And if you want to upload some document with respect to each interface, like TS you want to update, you can upload it. And there are something called as tags. You can even mention the tags. For example, for each interfaces, you will be having some point of contact, right? I mean, the if you have done some kind of production support, you are aware of it, right? Like who is the business owner, business process owner, who is the technical. If you are doing some third party integration, who is the technical point of contact from third party, and who is the business contact from third party, who is our SAP contact, who can provide the approval in case of any CR or any critical incident that happens. All these things you can mention it here by creating a custom tag, or something like tiles. Okay, so this is just to give an differentiating each interface, like it belongs to which stream and who is the owner, and all these things you can mention in this particular tags. And if you go to artifacts, this is the iFlow I have already created. If you click on the edit, so it gives multiple options here, like what exactly you want to create. If you click on add, so you can see there is integration flow, REST API, SOAP API, value mapping, OData API, and integration adapter. Okay, so these are the three different things now change. Okay, when you click on the REST API and SOAP API, basically what it creates is, it creates an iFlow with the SOAP channel, SOAP sender channel, and in case of REST, it creates with an HTTP channel. Okay, so these are usually these are the typical enterprise integration patterns. Okay, when you click on the OData API, earlier, I think in the last session when we were discussing, it was from something like OData provisioning. So now it has been renamed to OData API. So I'll take one session on this OData API or OData provisioning. So basically, this is like you want to expose some of your endpoint as an OData V2 endpoints, where you can have some kind of schema, or you want to expose it as an OData endpoint by consuming either an EDMX or an WSDL or a SOAP thing, and how to expose as a OData endpoint from the CPI. Okay, so that I'll take in maybe in the next session. And the last option is the integration adapter. So similarly, in the earlier, what happens is, like, you need to get into Eclipse in order to import an adapter. You want to build a custom adapter, like whatever the adapter currently you are having, which is provided either by your partners like OEM adapters, or provided by SAP. Okay, if you wish to build a new adapter, custom adapter altogether, to connect with some third-party system, or want to pass some kind of typical data you are receiving from sender system, or you want to send it to receiver system, you can build your own adapters. Okay, so for our today's demo, I'll be creating an integration flow. I've already created it, and even last week also I have showcased the same iFlow. So this week I'll keep on extending the same iFlow. Okay, so last week what we have done is, so I'll just remove this. Okay, sorry. So basically this is the integration process. Okay, so these are the different steps which are available, which are grouped based on their purpose, like events, or this is nothing but your mapping. This is your transformation steps. This is your call. Call is nothing but you want to make an request replay or internal to the CPI tenant. So all these things will come under this. And if you go further, these are the routing steps. You want to aggregate something which incoming, or you want to gather the scattered messages, you want to join, you want to multicast, or you want to route the data based on the content. Like if the ID is something, yeah, you want to route it to one branch, other branch. I'll try to cover all these things in the maybe in the coming session, or one by one. Okay. So for today's session, what I have done is, I'll just remove this so that you'll be able to visualize what I'll be doing. Okay, so last session we did this. We have added a HTTP endpoint, and we called an open source OData service from the Northwind, and we'll be getting a set of customers from this particular freely available OData service. So I'll just go ahead and deploy it. So yeah, it is triggered for a deployment. So you want to see, like, you navigate to this monitoring. I'll go to this, and where you can see the artifacts, whether it is already deployed or starting, and what is the status. Okay, so you can see this is the monitoring screen. Okay, so here you can see the first screen with respect to the message monitoring. Like whenever you push a message, and message will be captured in this particular screen. Okay, so the second would be the integration content, whether it is an iFlow or an OData provisioning or some REST API, SOAP API, that you can do this. I mean, this is the standard available. If you want to add one, you can add it. Something like integration adapter, value mapping. You just click on this. Okay, so it shows a value mapping also. There is a new tile, it will come. You can see. I have not deployed any value mapping so far, so it shows an additional tile also. The next one would be manage security, where you will be creating the security material. So if you are from PI or any other background, right? So in there, actually, usually in the channels or adapters, we directly used to give the username and password. So in case of CPA, we don't have that option. You have to create an artifact here. Like you have to get into the security material, and you want to create something like a username, password. You click on the user credentials, and you'll give something like user credential, and you give the username, password, and store it. In the channel, you will be using this particular name. Okay, so I have a simple scenario for this also. I'll showcase in the later stage, and I'll now go back to the integration content. Now I'll click on the manage integration content. You can see I have deployed an iFlow, which is up and running. It is starting. So you'll be able to get the endpoint URL here, and you'll be able to see the status, and you'll be able to see the artifact details, where you can directly navigate to message processing, or a view or read only screen of an integration flow. And there is something called as log information. There are four different options, either a none, info, debug, or trace. Okay, so we will do this also. First, I have kept it as a debug, and how exactly it differs, I'll show that. Now I have an iFlow deployed, so which basically gets all the customer details from the Northwind. So I have installed an OData adapter, sorry, the Postman. Just a minute. Yeah, so you can go here and click on this send. So this is the URL I'll be hitting. If you click this, it makes a call to your CPA tenant. It pulled all the customer data from the Northwind. Okay, if you go here to overview, and if you see here, see there are 3 messages. So this is the latest message. Okay, you can see the status has completed. So you have received the data there, and there are different options in the log. If you click on this particular debug, so you will be able to visualize in which step the message is getting processed or getting into the integration process. So it loads the different options here. You can see. So the left side would be your all the step details. The right side would be your flow, and this is the log content. So if you put the iFlow into a trace mode, you will be able to see the message content also. Okay, you can see here message has been triggered from your HTTP channel. It reached to your OData receiver. It pulled the data. It went to store data as a data store operation. Then it went to the end step because we have not connected to an XML to CSV converter. Okay, so if you click on each and every data, like store data, it loads the settings of that particular step. You can see here processing. I'm temporarily storing it in a data store. So this is nothing but a temporary stage, kind of a staging table you can see, but the purpose is not to have it used. Not to use too much, not to use the to store the data too much. I mean, with respect to size, because it consumes the memory from the CPA tenant. Okay, so this is just a temporary storage. You can use it in terms of for a day or a two you want to store it. You can store the data. Okay, and there are different options. I'll try to share that also. Now I'll go back to my iFlow and I'll be doing some small tweak here. So I'll connect this store data to XML to CSV converter, and I'm trying to convert the XML into CSV. Okay. If you uh, see the XML data, so this is the typical XML data which currently I'm getting from the Northwind. Okay. Now I want to convert this to an CSV, comma separated file. Okay. So what I'll be doing is I'll be adding in a transformation step converter, and I'll be pulling out the CSV XML to CSV converter. Okay, once you add it, you just connect the arrow and click on this. You will be able to see list of options available. So you need to give the path to your source element in the schema. So if you go here, so you want to have multiple records of customer, then you just click on this, Control P. You have an XML XPath here.
Siri, this is Nabi. One small
Yeah,
question.
Nabil.
From the way it is being developed, right, the flow, it looks like we don't need much of a PI expertise in CPI, right? As in, like, anybody can go and come and can learn it quickly, right? As compared to the
Yes,
on
yes,
device one, right?
yes, agree. Very much. I mean, there's no that much of similarity in terms of the tooling. Okay, so it's completely a different tooling, and it has a rich set of options available compared to PIP.
Okay. Yeah, so we can. Okay.
And there is no restriction as such with respect to the incoming data. Like in PI or PO, we used to have like it should be a SOAP PI message. I mean, the format should be always the same, right? But in terms of CPA, there is no as such restriction. You can put whatever the data you want, you just input based on the adapter.
Okay, one other way, I don't know if the correct question or not, because I see this is also ingesting data, doing some formatting and moving it to the next level, right? And if you remember this thing called data pipeline in SAP, data pipelines or something, where real-time data is.
It's a data hub. It's a data hub. It's called as data hub. So,
yes. So how?
yes, data hub is yeah. I'll give an what is the difference. So basically, there are two different set of tooling will come into picture. Okay, the one is that deals with the process, the other that deals with the data. Okay, so when you talk about data, it is more or less on the ETL side. Okay, extract, transform, and
Yes.
there is option, right? So ETL tools used to call, right? So that's the one part. The other part is with respect to process, where your process integration will come, and CPI, PI will come. Okay. So when you talk about data, you are not worried about the process. You will be getting some source data, and you need to send to some target data. You need to just to do the transformation part, and the volume would be very high, and you don't care about the process behind it, right? You'll be doing all this cleansing, cleaning, and whatever it is with respect to data.
Typical process integration versus ETL kind of thing. Agree. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Thanks.
In CPI also you have two flavors, right? So what I'm showing you currently, it is CPI PI, process integration, CPI. Okay. So there is one more tool called as CPI DS, data services. That is an ETL. Okay. So the difference between the data hub and CPI DS is nothing but data hub is more or less like it's kind of a platform where you can call all your artifacts from the CPI DS, or in smart data integration, or you want to call something from Apache Kafka, or whatever the data source that is available. So it just gives a pipeline, like what are the different steps you want to perform, either by calling any our on-premise services, or an already existing SAP services on cloud. So it just give a pipeline. So based on that, you can call and perform the operations on top of data. So here the data comes into second part. The first part would be your process. So you'll be working more on the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Sri. Perfect.
Okay. So the next one would be the I will be giving an XPath, and what is the field separator you want. So this is the list of field separators available. You want to change it, you can just go and delete it, and you can enter whatever the separator you want. I'll put in a comma separator, and I'll include the field name as in headers. Okay. And there are different options also, like in XML you want to put it as a parent element, or you want to add a parent element, or you want to include an attribute values. All these things you can perform. I'll keep as it is. And I have written a log payload script. This is a small script. I'll show that also. Basically what it does is it logs the payload on the monitoring screen. Okay. So this is very common small script you will be code snippet you will be using across. Okay. CPI. If you see here, I have created like I want to log the CSV data, right? So these are body. I'll be getting the data input body as a string, and as this is not huge data, so you don't have to worry about the string. Otherwise, you need to get into input reader or some other methods, or some other type of data, so that you can pass it effectively. And there is a class available, standard class message log factory class available. You'll pull the data and you'll add it as an attachment. Okay, so it just captures the input data as a body. Okay, and I'll just click on this. Okay, and we'll go back, and there are different options available. Okay, so these three options which are, you can see, this is basically from the community member, a guy called as Pati Pence, and he has created some kind of plugin for Google Chrome, which you can just add it to a Chrome, so that it gives an flexible option to enable the trace or see the messages or information about the artifacts. The standard way of doing is nothing but you'll again get into an overview and move to your integration content, and there you change the log level, right? So this is something called as, I mean, which you can easily reuse from the community. Okay, so you just click on this trace, it enables the trace. You can see trace activated, right? I'll just go ahead and you can save it as a version. That is very much you are aware of it about with respect to versioning. If you directly click save or deploy, it will save it as a draft version. Okay, and then I'll just go ahead and click on deploy. It asks whether you want to save and deploy. I'll click on yes. Now you can see, I think iFlow is deployed. If you want to see, you can come back to here and you can click on the refresh. It will be starting. So once you can see the log level here, it has been changed to trace, because We use some kind of plugin here to enable the trace. That helped us easily. And if you keep refreshing this, it's starting. So basically, it deploys the artifact from the your runtime, this one tenant management node into the deploy status, so that you have this versioning available on the IFL map node to process the messages. Okay, if you click here, yeah, it is now started. I'll go to Postman and I'll again click the same thing. See, you have received a comma separated file. Okay, so this is a simple transformation which I have done. Okay, so I have another 12 minutes, I guess. Right, Naveed?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'll just get into next. What I'll be doing is I'll just use some kind of a router step here. Okay, and I'll try to get the data from two different services. Okay, you just point to this router. I'll be doing a content-based routing now, and I'll try to cover few more steps. Let's do it in this way. And you put an end message step here, and we'll try to create a local integration process. Okay, so just to structure your whole iFlow, there are two options. One is the integration process. This is the main process, and you can have a different. You want to put some other steps together. You can have this local integration process also. I'll just add this as a local integration process. Okay, and I'll be doing something. I'll get the data from the SuccessFactors systems. Okay, SuccessFactors is nothing but our HR cloud solution. I'll be putting the request reply, and I'll be adding a receiver, and I'll be adding a channel. I'll be just drag and drop, and it gives me list of adapters available. So I'll go to SuccessFactors. I'll be fetching some OData. Okay, now you have adapter. You need to fill out the required details. Okay, the first detail would be your endpoint. So I have something already available. I'll put it as API sales demo. This is the API server, and you want to have an credential. I mean the credential name. I'll be just giving this, and I'll go to here and I'll create a credential. So if you go to secure monitoring and go to security material, you will click on create and click on the user credentials. Let's give the same name as what we have given on the channel. The type, you give it as a SuccessFactors. Okay, so this is the company ID, and if you are familiar with SuccessFactors, you might be aware of it. And I'll try to give this some password. And now we click on the deploy. Okay, now you have a credential created for you, and now you go back to here, and you have already added a name here, and now you can go to processing and you click on the, I think you need to get hold of this also. We'll go back to this processing and click on the select. Now, since you are doing it for the first time, it might ask for to create a system, like otherwise it directly goes. Okay, now you have a source. So you can see there are two options you'll get. Either you want to look, this is basically OData, SuccessFactors OData. So usually OData takes a metadata file as a EDMX. So either you can have a local EDMX file, or you can click on the remote. So once you click the remote, it makes a metadata call back to SuccessFactors to load the metadata. Okay, so automatically it pulls all the required details, and you click on the next step. Now it's making an OData metadata call back to your SuccessFactors system. And it takes a couple of seconds or a minute. Okay, now it uploaded all the metadata. If you click on here, all the available entities are loaded here. So if you click on view, you should be having a user. Okay, you'll click on the user, and you want to generate some XML schema definition like XSD. You can update. You want to change the name also, you can change it. If you want to select all the fields, you can do that, or else you just need a couple of fields. You just select accordingly. Just search for the first name. Okay, and you have a top, like you want to get only top 10 records, so you can just click a top, or you want to skip first 5 entries, you can do that also. The next one, it will come like a filter and sorting. So you want to filter based on some particular user ID or based on country, you can do that. You want to sort based on the date wise, ascending or descending, or any integers values. If you're having like 1 to 10 or any based on some custom field, you can do that. So basically this is a basic OData concept. I think Akash is going to cover this OData. That's what I feel. You just this is the query that's going to be formed, and you just click on the finish. It will give a notification like schema is created. You can see EDMX file is created and schema is created. Now I have a setup. Okay, now if you click on outside this, you should be able to navigate to resources, and yes, you have all the schemas here. Can you see API sales demo 4 and user entity get, and this is the older EDMX file which I have used for the Northwind, and this is the script which I have used for the logging. Okay, so similarly what we will do is we will send some headers, okay, custom header from Postman, and which identifies whether you want to pull the data from Northwind or from SuccessFactors. Okay, I'll just put a custom header here. SCN system. Okay, now you have a header here. Now what we will be doing is we will try to, this is an integration process, so it doesn't go automatically to the local integration process. So we need to call this local integration process. For that, what you need to do is you need to make a local call. So there is something called as process call. You just drag and drop this, and if you go to the details of this particular step, you can assign. So it gives the list of local integration process which you have created. You click on this, and now you click on this router and drag and drop to this, and we should give a condition for this particular router. It gives this, so we will mark it as a non-XML. Just take non-XML, and what are the different things you can give? You can see here, like we will give a header, right? So we'll give something like $header.scn system equal to SF. Okay, so this means like whenever the header that comes from the Postman as SF, it pulls the data from SuccessFactors, it gives back as a response. Okay, and we will make this second router. Okay, I think I did this wrong. Okay, I'm correct. I'll click on the second branch. I'll mark it as a default route. In case the header is not received, or if this condition is not met, it will go to the Northwind and it pulls the data from Northwind data. Okay, so we are good, and we'll go ahead and deploy this iFlow. it will give any error, I mean, with respect to your configuration. Now it should give an error with respect to your, I think there is a setting in the OData channel for SuccessFactors. Yes, you got that error. It shows where's the error. Okay, this is the error. I'll navigate to this. Go to processing. There's a pagination issue. I'll just put it as client and we'll put it as 800. Let it be 200. And I'll click on deploy. Now it should not throw any error. It should get deployed. And by the same time, I'll go back to my this thing and I'll add a custom header here. Same system. I'll try to mark it as SFSF. Okay, so let's see. It triggered for the deployment. And we'll go back to here and see whether artifact is deployed. Okay, it is deployed now. Let's try to put it. Okay. Let's hope for the best. It should work. Let's click on the send. If it errors out, then it's a good opportunity. We can start debugging where is the issue. If it not, then we'll cover in the next session. Oh, good. It pulled all the data from SuccessFactors. Now you can see the XML data, right? And this is the simple scenario I just wanted to cover for today. I think I'm over by time, 3 minutes delay. Any questions?
Actually, I do have some questions. Okay, so I see that that more or less it is like you need to understand the tool, how it works, and the other concepts of how files work and OData works. But there was only one place where you actually wrote code. I mean, where you wrote the script, right? So. Yeah, so for ABAP, I'm just speaking from the ABAP developer's perspective. Sometimes it's a deterrent for us, like, okay, we don't know that coding, we don't know that language, so we just don't try that. So my question is, so how often do you write the script in your projects?
I would say it's kind of an escapism, I would call it. Okay, if you're very good or familiar with the process modeling, so you don't have to write a code itself. You can completely leverage all the available steps and you can create an iFlow because SAP is provided steps for you to configure. If you're good at modeling and you know how exactly each step works, then you can model it. If it is not mandated to have a step, but I would say I prefer very less scripting because only 5% I could say, because the reason is like whenever some issue happens during your production or somebody who is doing the support thing, right, it will be very difficult for him to debug the issues. Okay, so you need to have a kind of a setup where you can pass that input and you can debug and you can do everything. I mean, the usual or as usual, the developer mindset would be like it is more of a tooling. So if something available easily and you can visualize on the screen, it is easy for you to debug and give some resolution quicker. So I would say like first step would be you just have a mindset like you can model it easily, like with all the permutation combination. If nothing works, go ahead with the scripting. So I would say 5%. I'll give an example of Excel. You want to read an Excel file from the SFTP server and you want to process it. CPI doesn't have any capability to pass the Excel. You have to write a script. So you don't have any other option. So if there's no other option, you go ahead and write it, or else you leverage the available steps. That makes the other guy who is going to support also easier.
Okay. Okay.
So I would say it is not required to have a 100% programming skill. So if you're good with the modeling, and then if you understand each and every step, you can do that. In case of any very complications or complex scenarios, you have to write a script. Then you can use any of your tools available and write a script, either a JavaScript or a Groovy script.
Okay. Thank you, Sri.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just one question here. So you had two branches. One is to call the success factors. The other one was to execute
Northwind.
the XML to Northwind. So
Correct.
I'm not sure if I was focusing. So did it execute the root one and generate the XML to CSV file?
It actually, we passed an header called as SFSF. If you see in the
Okay.
Postman, our intention was to get the data from SuccessFactors.
Success
So
factors.
it
Okay.
I'll show that how exactly it looks in a minute.
Yeah.
If you go
Thank
back to here and then in the message monitoring, you can see 12:45. There is a message processed, which took 12 seconds. And you click on this log level debug. You can see the data came inside. It went to the root 2, that is SuccessFactor. It made a call to process call, which internally called our local integration process to get the data from the SuccessFactors. It didn't give back the response. It went back to the sender channel.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is the help you'll get it from the monitoring. I mean, if you're having very complex iFlows you have created, then actually it helps you out in that scenarios.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Any other questions or anything?
Yeah, for any other question, I think you can always
Yes.
mail Sri. He's available on the community as well. You can always ask a question and tag him. Okay. So I think Akash. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sri, for this session. Yeah, Akash, over to you.
Hi, Gaurav. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Let me share my screen. So good afternoon, everyone. So today I will try to explain a little bit about OData. So let me know you are able to see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Okay, so today I'm going to give a brief introduction about OData, what is OData and how things typically work. Then we will go to define an OData service in system. Right? So topics which we will cover today is what is OData, typical definition of OData, how we exchange data over the internet, and how OData leverage that particular thing. Then we have 6 basic steps which will show a little bit capability of OData, how OData works, and how we can use that later. Then what is an OData resource? This is very important because how everything in OData is referred to as a resource which we can leverage. Then some of the basic parameters like Shri was mentioning about top, skip, and all those things. So this will cover what are the various options we can use in particular OData. Then how SAP connects to outside world in OData using SAP Gateway. Then we will go through a small demo where we will build an OData service in a particular system, or we'll see already a built service in a system. So what is OData? So OData is an OSI standard that defines a set of best practices for building and consuming RESTful APIs. So OData is typically based on RESTful stuff. So RESTful stands for representational state transfer. Here RESTful is based on 6 principles where all the data transfer is set up. So the basic 6 principles of RESTful is uniform interface. So each interface or each entity of the interface should be individually identifiable. So if I have a particular interface which have 10 or 12 particular identities, like Shri was showing, that user or some other properties of the particular OData service. So each resource should be individually identifiable. So we can perform all operations on a particular resource. Then it should be stateless. That means the client, the server should not contain any state of the particular resource. Like in SAP, how do we connect? So we have our SAP GUI, and then we have SAP server. So every time SAP GUI is connected to our SAP servers, and the state of that particular connection is maintained. But it's totally opposite in OData. OData doesn't maintain your state to the server. Each and every request is individual request and individual performance, right? So it like all other services, it should be a client server architecture. So somebody should be consuming a service, and somebody should be providing that endpoint to consume that particular service. Then it should be cacheable. So your client should be able to store the particular information locally. It should be a layered system. That's very important properties of the RESTful service and OData. That means the OData service should not know to which endpoint it is providing the information. So it could be multiple layered systems where you're calling a particular web URL, and it could be calling a 4th or 5th level or maybe a 10th level system. You're getting information. So you need not know at which system you're actually connecting. You just need a service to consume, and that's all you need. The last and the only optional point is code on demand. So a RESTful API, it can demand a code, but that's optional. That depends upon the endpoint who provides the service. So OData typically based on HTTP, and the data which is exchanged is in the form of XML and JSON. OData handles data using URLs in a specific rule. So you need to provide information in a particular format to consume to access that particular information from an endpoint, right? OData is defined based on entities, properties, association, and functions. This we will discuss later in the coming slide. So typically here, what you see is an OData URL. This OData URL, if you see the http service.org, this is my service provider, and Northwind is the service which it is providing, and the customer here is the resource path where it is providing me the resource. So everything in OData is referred to as a resource. So customer, here we are accessing customers from the Northwind service, and at the end of the query we are requesting only top 3 records. So this is a kind of OData URL which we access and we consume it in our operations. So this is a typical data exchange. This all of us are aware of, but let's spend 1 minute on this. So how typically our internet works? We have an HTTP browser which sends the HTTP request to web service, and then we get the response back and then we process it. So here in OData, since it's based on RESTful APIs, and it's a client server architect. Browser sends a request or a software that consumes your OData service. So we can directly call that OData service from a browser, or you can consume a web service like Siri was consuming in the CPI and calling at the backend. And then there would be a server that provides you an endpoint in the form of OData service, which you tend to consume, and that service would provide you data in the form of resources. That resource could be a table entity or any function. So since it's in RESTful HTTP based structure, so you can perform all your CRUD operations, create, read, delete, and update in the form of HTTP methods, which is post, get, put, and delete. So we will understand we will typically understand 6 basic steps how OData works. So just to start with, just to give an overview what is coming ahead. So this is a typical OData service. You call this HTTP server. For what happens in the background, this runs a select query on a table, and then this system collects all the information in the table and returns your data into the XML format. So I'm using Postman here to show how this is consuming. Are you able to see my Postman screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are typically taking a trip-in service, which is provided by OData org. It's a version 4 service. So here, what we are trying to do is we are calling trip-in service, and we are requesting the resource here. So we will send the request to the server. This is how a typical you will get a response in the form of an you are getting a response in the form of JSON. Here you can see the status of those. Okay, so we got the positive response, and the various properties of this particular service are user, first name, last name, email address, address information. So when you consume your service, it is very important for you to understand what all parameters, what all information is available in the particular service. So it is very important you to first understand what is the metadata of particular service. So simply you can add metadata at the end, and you can get the information of that particular service. So here we have added metadata, and then we will request the meta information of the particular service. So this is how typically your web service would look like. This complex type I will explain in a couple of seconds. So we currently looked at people, person, entity. So if you see here, this is the metadata of trip in service, where we are looking at the metadata of person. So the key property of this particular entity is username, and then you have different properties like first name, last name, email address, the address information. So if you look more closely, this address information itself is pointing out to a different structure. So this is like a deep structure where you have address information, and then it is again pointing out to a different type, which we call as a complex type, which you can refer from above. Here you also get the information of the particular complex type. So this is complex type location. And then this complex type again inherits another complex type city, which you can find out here. So country name, city name, region. So this information will be structured in the information which you will get. So now you can relate to the metadata and the structured information which you will receive when you will call this particular OData service. So this is address information, and address again inherits city as a complex type. Any questions still here? Okay. So now this this service is typically calling the complete people resource of the trip in service. So you will get all the information in the particular table which is available. So now this is like select all, right? But now you might have the ID of the particular user which you want to access, right? So you can request an individual resource by putting the key field in the bracket, and you will get only that particular resource as your output. You will all other information will be skipped. So we will also see this implementation in SAP system. one of the good features of OData would you can query the information, right? So for example, this is a sample query where you are requesting trip in service people. You are only requesting top 2 artifacts, like Shri was showing. You can have option to select top 2, and then you only want first name and last name, and then you want to filter. So here we have an association of this people with trip. So here we are requesting top 2 entities we are requesting only first name, last name, and then we are requesting system to give us the information only for those trip which is greater than 3000. So you will get only here you are getting only 2 entries which satisfy this particular query. And then you can also request you can also post information, update information using post method. So here we are updating people entity, and the body of this particular request is we are updating user with the name Lewis Black, first name, last name, email address, and then you send this request. We get a response that entity is created, and then we get a typical JSON structure, what all information was updated. You can link, associate to particular resources. So here we are trying to associate Louis Black with the trip reference. You can get the information. We are updating it with the trip number 0. So in OData, everything is resource. So when we call a particular function, you can also invoke functions like we have functions in SAP. So we are currently invoking a function get involved people. So this particular function, what it does is it gives me people Russell White who are on trip number trip 0. You send this particular request, you will get this particular information here. So this is how typically your OData request will happen for all your OData services, which you will write and consume. Any questions still here? No. Okay. We'll continue with the presentation. How do you create a service in your SAP system? So SAP gives you the T code is SCGW, which is a gateway builder. So here you define a data model with different properties, like we saw in the resource person. So here you can define name, surname, last name. It's like a structure you're defining, and you collect all those and you build a particular service. This is how OData resource is being built. We will see this in the demo. So some of the parameter options which we saw right now are, I have tried to list down a few, but you can also get more information on odata.org, odata.org, to get more details of the parameter options. So here you see we have filter where you can filter greater than 10 or order by, top, skip, select, and then inline, count, expand. Or logical operators also you can use and or not equal to. So this is how you can build your query and you can get the information from your data service. So how does an SAP system connects to an OData to outside world? So SAP has introduced the concept of NetWeaver gateway. So it is our gateway to connect to outside world. So imagine that you have multi architecture in your company where you have multiple systems like SRM, CRM, your ECC and success factor. So if you would have all these systems, and then each system would be deploying its own OData services, and then you have to connect to these particular systems individually. So what SAP has given us option that you can deploy a NetWeaver server, which we call as an OData gateway server. You deploy the particular server, and that server connects to outside world through OData, and this server connects to your SAP system. So you don't have to, each system doesn't have to worry about connecting to all outside world. So you can use a NetWeaver gateway server. So there are two basic deployments of how your NetWeaver gateway server can be deployed. One is your hub deployment. Hub deployment, you have a gateway hub. This is this screen is an example of a hub deployment where you have each gateway hub deployed, and all your SAP systems connect through RFC to all the system and get the information, and then you can expose this gateway to consumer. SAP has also given you an option to deploy SAP gateway on your ECC instance or your CRM or other instance. But this architecture is only successful where you have one or two SAP systems to connect. Typically, we go with a gateway hub deployment where your internal systems are exposed to gateway hub, and then gateway hub is exposed to your outside world. In the gateway hub also, you have two deployment options where you can have this gateway services component installed on your gateway hub, and then you have you can build services using SCGW on your business suite. So, but if you have multiple systems, then you have to deploy this building suite on every SAP system. Going forward. So I have taken snapshots here for all the services we have built, demo service, but I would go into SAP system to explain how you can build a typical OData service. Let me log into SAP system. Able to see my SAP screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll call transaction SCGW, which is gateway builder. First of all, you need to create a project. I'll create a project called demo 2. Give a description. Set package 3. So when you will create a project, you will find 4 structure already provided. So you have a data model where you will create your entity sites, associations, and entity sets. Then you will implement the services. You will find runtime artifacts and then service maintenance. So we'll create a data model. So I typically create data model using import function. You can quickly go into entity set and then you can also create from here. But this provides you a wizard which will easy and to do. So here we will see options how to create a data model using DTI dictionary and then RFC infrastructure, RFC call also. So we'll import using a DDIC structure. So here you give I use scar, and then this is the name of entity which will be exposed, and then you give your AWAP structure, right? So I have used scar again. And you choose the fields which you want to expose. I exclude mandate and then I'm adding all other resources. You provide an confirmation screen where you can also change the key fields. I use char ID as my key field, and then I finish it. So now you will see 2 entities created. One is scar in entity type, and then you have one more created as entity set. This is single and this is multiple. So we'll discuss how to implement this, how to fetch the data into this particular. So currently we have only created structures which are exposed to an OData service, but this needs to be implemented to fetch the information. You can also create an entity type using your RFC function. So we'll give an RFC name RFC. Then you give the name of the RFC function here. I've created a function module already in the system. I'll show it to you right away. This is an RFC function which is already present in the system. So we are using this RFC function to create our entity. So it has importing parameters as char ID, and we've used exporting parameters as SVA live type. So what your gateway service does is it picks the structures here. You can use this importing parameter. It will be mandatory based on your RFC option. It's not, if it is option here, it will show you option there as well. And then you select your output field, whichever field you want to include here. Then it's define the key field and then finish. Here now you have defined an entity type based on your RFC function as well. Then we will also understand how to import, create an entity site using your function. You have a function import, so you can typically import your function directly here. You give a function import name. I've created a function where you can check the seat availability in the system. So I'm directly importing that one function here. So when you import this particular function, you have to define your return. Here we want the function, we want to have a complex return type, and then you define the return type here. You have to define a complex entity type first. That is, you have to define as a complex type. So you import it. Seat availability, you define it as a complex, and then you give your structure here.
So Akash, where we have defined this function?
This function you will specifically have to code it here in. So this is just like importing, defining a structure of the function right now. We have not code anything here. So everything you have for a OData service, you have to code everything in your runtime artifacts. So I'll show you how to code that later. So this is typically defining defining an RFC function module in your SAP system. So we are defining an RFC import function here. So these artifacts, and I have already created the demo service here. So if you see here, there are entity types, similar entity types like carrier we created here, then flight connections. I've created already a complex type seat availability, the same complex type we have created here. And you can link your flight carrier to flight connections. You create a particular association. So sorry. So this is a particular association we've created between these two entities, where we have named the association as flight carrier to flight connections, where we say flight carrier is your cardinality 1, and then you can have multiple flight connections to flight carrier. So when you created all the required structure, you generate your runtime artifacts. When you will generate your runtime artifacts, you will see there are 6 classes generated for your implementation. So there are data provider class, model provider class, your model provider class, and then service class. So how do you would implement your functionality? So currently we have just created the skeleton. We have not tell the system what to pass into the particular information, what to do, and how to use that. So you go to your service implementations, you will find the methods which you have to implement here. So if you see flight carrier set, this is your first entity. You go to your create, you will see which method you would have to implement. So you have to go to your extension class, and then you have to implement this create entity set method. So what I've done is for the demo purposes, I have already created implemented the get entity set method, which will help which will read the information. I'll show it right now. So I have implemented get entity method. So how this will work? So now you will have your entity in your OData model. You will call it through an HTTP get method. So this will come into this particular method. So here, what we are doing is we are reading carrier ID. And then I have called a function here, but you can directly code here as well. We are getting all the carrier ID from the system, and then we are passing that particular information into our entity output internal table. So this will be converted into XML XML or JSON format when you will call your OData services. So get entity set will give you all information here. You can implement whatever way you want to implement. So get entity is typically getting one particular information. Get entity set is getting the complete table itself. So this is how one is expecting a result, and this is how you should implement your methods here. So now let me show you how this service looks in the browser. So this is how we have we have called our service. This is our server name, and this is the particular service which we have implemented. So when you will implement your service, you have to activate using our services in ICF service. You activate your service in ICF, or you have first of all maintain your service. When your service will not be implemented, you will see something like this. You will see blank icon, but then you have to select your service, and then you have to register it. After your registration, it will go green. So that means your service is now registered. You can also use your gateway client to test your service here itself. You don't have to go to browser to test. You have all the functions, get, post, update, delete methods here. You can call your service, and then you can also get your result here. So currently I am facing issues with my ICF service, but I have already located them in web browser. I can show it to you right away here. So this is our service which we have created, that flight demo, and we have 2 entities currently implemented, where we get flight entity carrier and then flight connection set. This is your metadata, how it looks like. So the key field which is selected, carrier ID, and then my other fields like carrier ID, carrier name, carrier code, the type. So everything is EDM, and then you can define your carrier type. So let me show you that as well. So if you go to this particular entity set, it is defined by properties here. You can typically look into the properties. So carrier ID is EDM string, and your ABAP type is carrier ID. So you can this is how your ABAP type would be linked to your EDM type here. It will automatically convert. This is dependent upon your version of the OData services. So currently V2 and V4 are the two major versions of the OData services which are being released by OData org. And the major difference is in both the services is type is more types available, like date and time is now dedicated types available in version 4 which were not there in version 2. So you can refer odata.org for the differences between different version of your OData service. So how, okay, this is your entity type carrier ID, and then this is your entity flight carrier. We have complex types which have been created. So this is how your metadata looks like. Now running this particular service. So I have called my flight carrier set, where I am getting my all carrier ID, carrier name, and then requesting my individual which entity set. I'm requesting A, so I'm getting only information as in the form of A. I'm not getting all other information. So this is how typically your OData service look. This session was an introduction session to OData. So you can explore more where you can implement your functions in an OData service. So you can consume your OData service in your code. So I will provide this PPT where all the snapshots we have already incorporated, and the steps how to create a particular structure which we have shown in the particular demo.
Okay, thanks, Akash. Just to highlight one point, we discussed embedded deployment and hub deployment. So for S/4HANA, recommendation is embedded deployment. I mean, just to highlight the point. But yeah, there could be some specific scenario where we go for a separate gateway server. But right now for S/4HANA implementation, gateway service is embedded in the same backend server. So that's a recommendation. And I think thanks Akash, you covered it as well.
Earlier it was, I think, Gaurav.
Yeah.
Gaurav.
Yeah, please. Someone was saying something.
Gaurav, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, earlier I think it was initially it was hub recommendation, but I think of late in 2018 or 19 they have changed to embedded one.
Yes,
right?
yes, very recently. Yeah, you are right, 18 or 19. Yeah.
Hi guys, Gaurav. So, what is the reason of this shifting from hub to embedded? Because as per normal, any business or any company where it would have multiple systems involved, and we can have one gateway server corresponding to outside world servicing to those systems. So, what is the reason that SAP has moved from hub to embedded?
Okay. For this, Gurpreet, there is a separate blog about it. Yeah, we can share that. But I think one reason for sure was that it was increasing a lot of complexity. Okay, having a separate server, and then you have to implement a lot more things there. Okay, if you like,
there can be Gurpreet, it is like it is very debatable, but primarily you can look at if you have a hub deployment, you have a central server which is like entry and exit point to everything, right? If that server goes down, you are out of picture, right? You cannot connect to your other satellite systems. But in case of you have your embedded one, it is altogether a different scenario. But that also comes with a cost because you need to have upgrades and so many systems and all. So it is still, I will say, yes, the recommendation is embedded, but it is more or less is debatable how your existing architecture is.
Yeah, it's like a point to point system.
Don't force it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Point. It is point to point. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Hi all. Since we are talking about OData, so I just have one query. If anyone would like to answer it, I will be very happy. I'm working on one project wherein we are in transition from ECC portal, right? Means SAP portal, right? We have ESS, MSS, and all. So SAP has stopped their support from December 2020. Now we are going to transit it from portal to Fiori. So we are having some of the apps like leave application and other some transfer process and all. So for that, we have already created some PN forms or means leave application already there, right? In ECC itself and on portal itself. And we do have some of the validations, means lots of validations that on leave have been put it in ECC as well as on portal, because we do have some different kind of bodies and all that will be working only for portal, like for uh, requesting a leave for future and past and some kind of these things, right? So while we are in the proposal of transiting to Fiori, so we have some standard applications from Fiori library, right, for HCM applications like leave and all, but that is too standard one, right? And we are having some kind of customization that we need to register it out, means we will be doing some customization over that. But thing comes on when we are coming to our OData part, right? So how would these kind of bodies and these kind of validation will take in place when we are coming to OData? Means do we need to write all those things again inside the DPC or MPC, or we do have different kind of bodies or some classes that will be provided while transition from this to this? So I'm searching, but did not get something on means that was very useful. So just putting it here.
Okay. Janavid, carry on.
Yeah. So Paras, thanks for the great question. So here is my viewpoint. I might be wrong also. I might be right also. Okay. But this is what I think is, because you have on your custom logic, right? It depends how that logic is coded, right? If it is coded in a very good way, you can reuse that logic here, right? If we are talking about, for example, creating a TREPI or using a standard BAPI, right? And inside that BAPI, you have a body validation and all. So you can use the same BAPI and there is no need to code extra validations. So yes, you have to see that. That depends on case to case basis. That is for typically your Fiori or this gateway side validation, which we call it as a server side validation. Client side validations is more or less has to do with your Fiori app and all, right? And how is this app developed? Is it like a Fiori app which you have deployed on portal earlier? Or what is it? What kind of app? It is a typical Purana enterprise portal wala app, iView type of
Yes,
thing.
yes, yes. It was on portal. Like we are using ESS and MSS applications, right? So that was on WebDyn Pro app. Now it is moving.
WebDyn Pro app. Okay, so I think because it is a custom applications, right?
No, some of the applications of leave and all and working time that are basically standard one that we are using.
Very good. Okay.
Right?
So if you go to, let's talk about case by case. So first, let's say you have standard applications, right? So if you go to SAP standard catalog for Fiori apps, you will see all the standard applications which are available. Okay.
Yeah.
Fiori apps. Now it might happen it will not serve your all purpose, but you will see there are extension points where you can extend those apps, you can add those validations. Number one, right? Custom altogether is the same story where you have to reuse the existing logic inside creating your new services. So that's what I think. Maybe Gaurav and somebody else also can add to it.
Yeah, so my take is that for standard applications, you will definitely have one-to-one, not exactly one-to-one Fiori mapping for the Fiori application, but whatever was being offered by standard earlier will be covered in one of the Fiori apps, which are standard Fiori apps, which are being offered. Okay, and now coming to the custom part. Yeah, I think if you really have a really had a WebDyn Pro application and you want to move it to Fiori, Yeah, I think that's something you will have to do it yourself. You write your code and you can reuse the code as much as possible. But when you are really writing the application again, it opens a lot of opportunities as well. If you want to move it to BTP, right? If you really if you want to make use of different services, such thus reducing the cost and the load on your on-premise system. Yeah, I think it's a high time to kind of redesign web template applications. Yeah, I think it should be looked at as an opportunity, I think. And then whatever you had done earlier, if you are using the BTP app in the cloud, you can actually reuse that as well. You can directly call the BAPIs and RFC from the cloud. So yeah, there are a lot of options when you're redesigning.
And plus, what you are migrating to, what level you are migrating to.
Migrating as in means whole application, since portal is not working, right? So everything is being shifted to Fury itself, right? Like means applying leave applications and filling timesheet and means the transfer process from one organization to different organization. For that we have separate basically SAP Fury apps itself, right? Start process and all. But again, thing is, means we do not have PDF support, I think, in Fury itself, right? We can show it that has been downloaded from ECC side, but that cannot be generated in Fury itself. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right, because that process part is basically using workflows and Adobe Forms and some custom logics, right? That is called HCM PNF forms, process and forms in ECC. That part also we are going to migrate.
I think there are a lot of dimensions there, Paras. I think Nabit and myself have given a review. If anyone else want to give their review from a meeting, they can also give. But I think I would suggest you to write a question on the community. I think you will definitely get some good answers there as well.
Sure. Means as of now, means if we are proposing, means like I am having one solution, like we the existing bodies we can use like in current ABAP system we can use call body and all, right? That syntax we can use to have the existing bodies taken place.
Yeah, I think those barriers should already be there. Will be triggering for the standard Fury application. That what I understand. But again, I think you won't get the right answer here because we don't know the details. And if anyone had worked, they would have really answered you on this. Probably just write a question on community, and
Sure.
we have given a few points as well. Thank you, Paras. Okay, I just have one question before we conclude. Probably to Akash. Akash, we have SOAP services as well, then OData services, right? So when to use which kind of service? I mean, how do you decide? And when you look at one service, okay, how do you decide whether it's a SOAP service or it's a OData service?
So SOAP service typically would have when you have one-to-one connection to your systems. So SOAP service comes with overhead that you should know what to implement at SOAP end. It comes with your own defined protocols, but OData typically have all defined protocols, like it exchanges data into XML and JSON. So you have predefined formats when you get the results. So you don't have to worry about what my sender would be sending in, which format it would be sending in. You can typically access the information. In the SOAP, you would need all the documentation and architecture of the service which you are consuming, where you have to ping and specifically set up a connection with that particular service. So how you, from a URL, how you differentiate it's an OData service or SOAP service, that I don't know. I will get back to you on that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. I really don't know if you can actually identify from URL or not. So I just asked that. Okay, Sri.
I'm pretty not sure how you really able to identify it from the URL or not. So that's a good question actually.
Yeah, Shri, would you like to give some opinion on this? You work a lot. You work a lot with OData and SOAP, I know.
Hello?
Hear me?
Gaurav?
Yeah, Naveed, can you?
What was it?
Question was like difference between SOAP and OData. How do you identify and how do you take a decision which one of these to be used?
The complete question.
Sorry?
What is the complete question? What is the complete question? I got dropped off.
Okay, the question that I just told is that we have two kind of services, SOAP service and OData service. How do you decide that you create OData service you should create or SOAP service you should create? And when you look at one service,
Okay.
identify which one is SOAP and which one is OData.
Okay, so how do we identify it?
Maybe metadata it will have.
I think at the end of the day, both are endpoints, but you will not have those metadata annotation driven things or those things, but they will be endpoints. And
I think
I
one
will
thing,
have to come up. We'll search and get back to you with the differences because
one thing I've noted
I think it
that
will be some.
yeah, someone speaking. I think SOAP will give you Visual and OData will give you EDMX. That's where you can actually identify that. That is one thing. Probably more insights on it.
Yeah.
Mahesh?
Yeah, might be, but I am not sure to be. But yes, still OData is, or the I say REST is the way to be. But yes, we'll have to look that. How do we identify whether it is SOAP or REST or OData?
Actually, someone was also recently asking me this question. Like, there is a PIPO system. Maybe CD note it better. It's not CPA, PIPO, and that person was saying they are still using web services to connect with PIPO to send data to PIPO, right? So they are creating the normal this proxy web services are there, right, in ABAP system. So they are still creating that, and they are sending the data to PIPO. And he was asking like, why are we not going for OData? Is there any way? I said I also don't know, but I feel like if the system that which is going to consume the service, right? If it supports OData, obviously we need to give OData only as highest priority. If it doesn't support OData, if it is not having the capability of uh, consuming the OData things, it's and if it has ready-made features in WSDL, so maybe SOAP services are better. But PIPO, this thing I don't know if it has some ready-made
Mahesh,
features.
yeah. Mahesh, so with respect to PIPO, so the internal format for PIPO is SOAP XML. Okay, it should be XML. So that's the reason you have to expose in SOAP service, irrespective, like whether you connect to an ICO, iFlow, whatever it is. The native format for PIPO is SOAP XML. That's how the
Yes.
tooling is.
Okay.
So you can't have an OData service because that's the reason we gave option in CPI just to overcome that. CPI don't have that kind of restriction. You have to have an so there's no such restrictions. So that's the reason we have
Yeah.
something called OData provisioning. You can leverage that in CPI.
That makes sense.
Yes,
Hello.
Monica
Hello.
here.
Yeah, hi guys.
Yeah, hi, Monica here. So I'll just add same point as Shri Prasad said that SOAP and OData are both different services. So when we have XML format to consume, we should go with the SOAP API where we get Wisdom and endpoint, which is necessary. We cannot use OData in those cases.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Can I
Fair
put
point.
some comment on this?
Yes, please,
Hello.
Ankur. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ankur, please.
So actually, the SOAP concept is based on stateful. I can say, and OData is based on REST API. So REST API is saying that if you have the stateless communication with the server and client, then you can use the REST services like OData services. And if you are going with the SOAP services, that is like stateful. So once you connect with the server provides you a token. Once it is validated, then the request will come to the client. But in the REST service, it's not create a token for every user. Like once you request, 10 users request at a time, then it will send a response. That's it. There's no, I can say like state communication. There is a stateless communication in OData services.
Yeah, based on the little knowledge that I have, Ankur, you can also have SOAP services which are REST based.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not, we cannot really differentiate based on that. So yeah, I think one thing is clear: out of SOAP and OData should be preferred. Reason for that is that OData gives you output, or you can returns output in JSON. Okay, and SOAP only returns in XML, and JSON is much lighter than XML. That's why OData should be preferred. I think there is no debate on that. So yeah.
And for the identification of REST service, OData service and SOAP services, if you go to the any URL of the OData service generated by the SAP, so it represents a URL something SAP/OPU/OData something, so that user can identify that it's a OData services.
Yeah, that is specific to SAP OData services. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are already past by 9 minutes. I think it was good discussion. Probably we can explore more on this topic. If someone else gets to know more on this topic, we feel free to mail us, let us know. But I think this is something these three topics, REST, SOAP, and OData, I really get confused between these things many times. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a great session by Akash and Sri. Thank you very much, and we will continue exploring these. Great to have a good turnout today. Yeah, Nibita, you want to say something, and then we can close off?
No, I think these were the two great sessions, and I think we had an interesting topic also, which is now SOAP versus REST versus OData versus whatever, right? And I remember in the last session also there was this discussion regarding app new syntax. Is it more performance intensive or not? So these are questions still yet to be answered. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, but overall, thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, I think Nabit has got a call. Okay. Yeah, I think thank you everyone. Thanks for joining. See you next month.
Thank you everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav.
And Gaurav, do share that podcast and all links to be gone through.
Yes, if I forget, please remind me, because I will, whatever based on my memory, I will share it. If I miss something, feel free to remind me, okay, on email.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Navini.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.